Today, I'm going to talk about data federation with GraphQL and Hasura, um, and a little bit of introduction about me. I'm Praveen Doriraj. I'm a developer advocate at Hasura. You can follow me on Twitter, GitHub, on these handles, Praveen Web. So today, data federation, right? So basically, you have data sources in multiple places, and any application requires like APIs to be communicating with multiple data sources. So in today's example, we'll look at a few sources like joining data from Postgres, using like an open API spec, which is like a REST API, probably get in some data from a CMS, and so on. So in a typical use case, you have all of these three different data sources coming in, and we'll see how we can use GraphQL to actually leverage this and make queries in a single API call, right? Typically you have consumers, which are multi-platform. You have mobile apps, you have web applications, and external third-party APIs for consumption. And GraphQL becomes that data layer, the query layer, and you have on the other hand the producers of the data, which is like the database or third-party APIs and so on, right? So there is some glue that connects both the consumers and the producers, which is basically the API layer, for which we're going to use GraphQL. Um, and you have a lot of internal services and external services on the backend. And GraphQL becomes that layer which actually talks to multiple data sources, and then presents a neat layer to the front end, right? So if you look at it here, there's a lot of things going on over here, a lot of data sources, but the consumers actually leverage the benefit of GraphQL by just making a query and then not worrying about what's happening at the back end, right? So the interesting bit is that different consumers will need different data sources, and different sets of data. The amount of data will vary. So it's pretty interesting to know that uh, any GraphQL client, any front-end client, be it mobile app or web app, they'll be able to actually specify exactly what they want depending on their particular use case, right? And the API still remains the same for all of these consumers. So in Hasura, where Hasura becomes that GraphQL API layer, which an app contacts. So let's say the app actually makes a GraphQL request to Hasura. Hasura basically talks to multiple data sources, like probably like microservices. You have databases like Postgres and like MySQL and so on. And you also have external SaaS APIs like Stripe, Auth0, and so on, right? And it could be your particular serverless function and so on. So a little bit of context how Hasura fits in here in the GraphQL space. So Hasura basically is a GraphQL layer which connects to databases and microservices to give you a real-time GraphQL API. And it comes in with built-in authorization layer, which gives you a role-based permission system that you can configure declaratively. And it's pretty easy to just do configurations and do migrations and so on, right? But for today's focus, we'll look at the federation aspect of Hasura, which brings in data from different sources and then actually merges them into one single queryable schema, right? So basically, Hasura contacts microservices and databases and external APIs, but then the client actually receives data in a single format, right? The query is basically the same, but the data actually internally Hasura basically proxies it to multiple sources depending on which part of the query needs to go to which place, right? So Hasura takes care of that, applies some authorization rules on top of them, and then sends back the response to the client, right? So I'm going to make this little demo driven to showcase what data federation looks like. So I'm going to create a project on Hasura Cloud to get started. And I can, so for Hasura to work, you need a Postgres database to start with. Heroku gives you like a Postgres database add-on, right? I'm just going to use that to create a database. And once I get a database URL, Hasura just basically requires this database URL to connect to and then create GraphQL API, right? Um, so we'll let the app actually initialize for a few seconds. So basically, this is now deployed on AWS East region. Now I'm going to launch console. Um, we'll give it a few more seconds for the DNS to reflect. So if you look at the GraphQL API here, we immediately get a GraphQL endpoint for consumers to start using it. And we look at how that can be used. So I have this Hasura console ready. So what we've done is basically we've deployed a version of Hasura on Hasura Cloud, and we've connected it to a Postgres database. Right now, it's a new database, right? And we've got a GraphQL endpoint which you can start using to query, right? What I'm going to do is for this example, I'm just going to create a couple of tables and then map some data from different sources. So, for example, let's start off by creating a users table. Let's say I create a users table with columns ID and name, the typically used columns. I'm just going to use some defaults, and I'm going to add a table. So what this does is it basically creates a table in the database, underlying database in Postgres, and then you can. This is just a UI to manage the underlying database, right? But the interesting bit is that once you create a table, you can see that GraphQL queries and mutation subscriptions are being generated. So I can now start doing queries on the table and the columns that I've created. Obviously, the data is empty, but the idea is that you've created a table and Hasura has generated the API for you automatically, right? So now, so this is the GraphQL endpoint at the top. Your front-end client can just directly use this to get data by making a GraphQL query, right? And on top of this, you obviously have authorization set up to prevent malicious access. So you can do that. But now switching back focus to the data sources. So I have this users table, but let's say the user table also has probably another column called, just for this example, I'm going to have a column called currency, which I'm going to fetch the data from a different source. Let's say it's not nullable. I'm going to add this new column. Let's say I add a user, and let's say the currency is USD. Right. So now my use case is that I have this data in Postgres, but I have some custom logic where I'll have to get the latest currency rates for the real-time currency rates, right, for the user, and the user's currency setting is USD. So I'll probably require the different values of different currencies, right? So what I'm going to do is I have like an Exchange API which is there open that I can use for free. This is the Exchange API that I'm going to use, and to do that, so this is the REST API, right? And Hasura basically requires a GraphQL API for a remote schema. So here, what we're going to do is we're going to create a GraphQL server, which can be added as a remote source, and then we'll start establishing relationships between multiple sources, right? So for this particular example, I'm making use of this open source package called OpenAPI to GraphQL, created by IBM. What this does is if you have like a REST API following the OpenAPI spec, you can actually like configure this OpenAPI to GraphQL library with that spec, and then it will try to generate a GraphQL API on top of that, right? So I have a boilerplate of that configured already. So I'm going to open this on Glitch. So this will have the source code for converting the currency API, REST API into GraphQL. In fact, not the resolvers, because that is taken care by the OpenAPI GraphQL library. So we're just going to pass the OpenAPI spec, and then the library will take care of generating the GraphQL API, right? Cool. So if I open the JSON file of the spec, you can see that I'm using this OpenAPI URL of exchange rate api.com. I'm going to use this spec, and then this would have actually created a GraphQL API for us. So if I open this in new tab, and then I do /GraphQL, to go back to this code again, I can show you that there's an Express app running, which runs on /GraphQL endpoint. It serves the schema and the GraphQL interface, right? So this is the endpoint where I can now do a query to get the latest value for any currency. So let's say my base currency is USD, and I want the rates for today, right? So I get the data from this currency API, USD being the base. I have the conversions for the rest of the currencies, right? Cool. So now if I go back to the app, the Hasura app, where we've created the users table with the currency USD. Now my front-end client needs an API which gets this data along with the conversion rate of the currency depending on each user. So what we're going to do is we're going to add this GraphQL endpoint as a remote source. So I'm going to add this GraphQL endpoint as a remote schema. So with the remote schemas, you can add external GraphQL servers which are running elsewhere, right? I'm going to call this currency API, and the URL will be the GraphQL endpoint available in Glitch. Cool. I can forward all headers. I'm adding the remote schema. Cool. So now I've added this remote schema. What I can do is I can now try querying that through Hasura itself. So the query that you saw in the GraphQL interface previously, we can now do that query over here. So I can do the date and the rates. Obviously, this is again doing the same query. But Hasura is now the layer where the front end actually communicates with. Right. So now we have both the users table over here and the types from the remote schema API. Right. So what we're going to do is we want to join data from the users table's currency column to the value of the latest conversion rates, right? So that I can make a single query to get this data. So to do that, I'm going to the users table, and I go to relationships. I can add something called a remote schema relationship, but I'll call this as conversion rates. And I'm going to select the currency API as a remote schema. And in the configuration, I can just select the base currency type, which I'm querying for. And I'm going to map it to the currency column that is there in the table. So in our users table, we have the currency column, right? We're just mapping that column to be the argument for the base currency type. Cool. So I'm going to create this relationship. Now, what we can do is we can query this. We have conversion rates. We have the base, obviously, and the date and the rates, right? What this will do is this will make a query to fetch the currency. In fact, I can also fetch the name of the user to make it simpler. So these two columns are actually coming in from the database, if you're aware, and the conversion rates are actually coming in from an external API. But the fact is that we've made a single query, and Hasura basically batches and processes data, proxies it to the external API, and then gets back the response for the client, right? So if I go back to the data tab, I can actually like modify the currency, make it INR. And if I make the query again, this time the base currency has been set to INR, and you have the conversion with the rest of the other currencies, right? So now in a typical e-commerce setup, you might want to do like order placements and like join data from external SaaS services, right? So this is one of the use cases where you can like join data from a different SaaS API or external API. So for we are using an open API for currency conversions. Um, by basically converting them into a GraphQL API, right? But technically, you can write your own GraphQL resolver, which will map to a database call, or it could map to your REST API call, right? Because at the end of the day, Hasser actually requires just a custom GraphQL server endpoint that you can add as a remote schema. But in case you have a REST API that you want to actually add, what you can do is you can actually go to Actions. With Actions, you can actually create a custom GraphQL type and then map it to a REST API endpoint. And then the REST API handler can actually be the resolver for your GraphQL query, right? Or the mutation. Cool. So the first use case is that I have joined data from an external SaaS service. My next use case is to join data from another database. Let's say another database is actually just the data for that is served by Hasura itself. So what I'm going to do is I have another project. If I just refresh this, I have another uh, cloud project, and I can just show you the tables there. I have the order table and the product table here, a typical e-commerce setup where you have products with the price, and you have orders being placed for products tagged to the user ID. Cool. So in a legacy setup where there are multiple databases doing different actions, you have or even in fact different databases, meaning not just Postgres, it could be like a different database like MySQL, where one particular set of data is being stored for a different reason, and because probably there are faster writes and probably faster optimizations available. So you use a different database for a different use case, but the final idea is to actually merge them into a single API interface so that the clients can actually start querying, right? So now what we want to do is we have the metadata of the user over in this table. This is the user ID column, and we have the users table in the other project of Hasura, right? What we're going to do is we're going to basically merge these two databases. So to do that, I just need the GraphQL endpoint of the project. I'm just going to add them as a remote schema. I'm going to call this Hasura remote schema. And I'm just going to put in the GraphQL endpoint from Hasura. Right now, I don't have any admin secret configured, but in case I have an admin secret configured, I can actually pass in an Hasura admin secret as a header, and then this will be authenticated on the backend, right? Um, I'm going to add this as a remote schema. Now, if I go back to GraphQL, I can actually start querying for the order table from this, and I can do ID, user ID, and the product ID. This will give us some data from the other database. So if you note that this particular endpoint is a different GraphQL endpoint, and this one is a different project serving a different database, and this has a different data set, right? But the common element between these two databases is the user, which is mapped to the order table. So coming back to the relationships, I go to the users table here. I go to the relationships tab. I add another remote relationship. This time, let's say I have this relationship called orders. I can go to the Hasura remote schema. I can select the order. and I can do where user ID is equal to the ID of this user table, right? I can now click on save, and I have added a relationship called orders. So now I can query for users. I can call the name. I can even also get their conversion rates, which will have the rates. And I can also get the orders, which will have the order and the final price, and also probably the product ID. So we're actually fetching data from 3 different places here in a single query. If you look at this response, this ID and name of the users table is coming in from the users table in this particular database. The orders value is coming in from a different database, again served by Hasura, but it need not be served by Hasura. It can be any GraphQL server, and this conversion rates data is coming from an external SaaS service, right? So the whole idea is that you have data sources obviously spread out in multiple places, and your consumer, the front end consumer, wants to actually access and query them in a single place in a single GraphQL query, and this is basically totally possible because of the schema, the type system that GraphQL exposes, which enables this sort of tooling to be done, and this sort of nested queries to be made. Obviously, you have to be careful about how deep your nested query looks like to optimize for performance. But in most app use cases, you will want different data sources to be merged into a single API call, so that now this will reduce the number of round trips on the front end, but technically it's done on the back end. But the consumer basically doesn't care. The client, which is basically the web app or the mobile app, it doesn't care about how many API requests are being sent. So that's pretty much this data federation demo. I have another small demo if I have time. I think I can do this as well. This is an interesting experimentation that I was doing last month, where I have this GraphQL endpoint served by Gatsby. So if you're familiar with Gatsby, it's just a React static site generator, which has a GraphQL data layer, um, and and it is served in a development environment. But in a production environment, you see that it's a static site and it just outputs HTML that you actually end up putting on a CDN. But the fact is that there is a GraphQL data layer in between, right? We're going to just basically leverage that with the source plugins that Gatsby has. Gatsby has this bunch of source plugin ecosystem where there are different REST APIs being merged into a single schema into Gatsby. Um, so what this means is that if you've written a plugin for Gatsby as a source plugin, and then you've been probably using it, you can actually now use the endpoint that Gatsby exposes on the dev server, and then actually try to use them for a production environment where you have different data sources coming in, and then you're actually stitching it into one place, and then you actually merge them into a single endpoint, right? So this is one of the API servers that I've deployed on Heroku. This is just a Gatsby app. It's a Gatsby Node app. I've just deployed this here. If you're running Gatsby on a local development environment, you will note that it exposes triple underscore GraphQL endpoint, where you can actually just query this interface, right? So I have this example where so there are a bunch of default plugins which Gatsby exposes, the source file system, for example, and I've added like the Git source file system, Git source plugin, which lets me query some Git remotes by just giving in the name of the repo, and it gives some details about the organization and so on, right? just as an experimentation, we can actually um, copy this GraphQL endpoint. So by Gatsby, and I go to remote schemas, and I add this remote schema called Gatsby, and I add this GraphQL endpoint. I can forward headers. If you have like an authenticated API in Gatsby, you can forward in different headers or credentials and secrets, right? Cool. So now we've added the Gatsby endpoint. Let's see if we are able to query the git remote, and you can see that it's all added on the Explorer. So the schema is now merged into a single data source. So I can actually make the similar query that I have here. Just copy this, and you have data coming in from Gatsby now. So so if you look at the whole demo, we've actually covered like an array of data sources. If you look at the schemas that is generated now, you have types from Gatsby. You have types from two different databases served by Hasura, and you have an external SAS API, which is just doing a simple currency conversion. But you get the idea that this can technically be anything. It could be like your payment service like Stripe, and you can add any data source which can be just queried on and then merged and into a single query, right? So that's the whole idea behind data federation. Um, the whole idea is just data sources are in different places, and you want to actually now query from different consumers a flexible way to actually query your data, right? And Hasura provides this neat abstraction where you declaratively configure different data sources, you add them, and it also adds an authorization layer on top, which will actually make it pretty easy for the front-end client to start querying. So to quickly go and show the permission system, so I have this users table, and I have this permissions tab where I can define roles. And what this will do is, if you have an authentication provider integrated, you can now specify it either in a JWT claim or in a custom webhook where you can just validate the request. You can actually specify what kind of operations a particular user is supposed to do by just doing some checks on whether the ID of the user has to come from some variable, or if some column has to have some value, right? You can do all sorts of checks here, and you can select exactly which columns you want to expose it to the front-end client, right? So this makes it pretty easy to set up authorization. This is also pretty declarative. You can use the YAML configuration in the CLI if you prefer that way, or if you just prefer the GUI, you can use this console to declare permissions. Um, and I think what is pending or what is more upcoming in the upcoming release is that now that you've joined data from different sources, you will want to also now granularly specify permissions for the remote sources. Right now, if you look at the permissions can be set for the current data source. Obviously, there will be permissions for the other Hasura database, which has the users and orders table, and you can forward in the headers, which will take care of the authorization setup for this database. But if there is a way to actually set up permission system for different remote schemas granularly at a node level, that is what we'll be adding pretty soon. That will make it pretty cool to actually now use any API, and Hasura becomes that app app and the database, the interface for the app and the database, or even any microservice, right? So that will basically just turn Hasura into that powerful API system, which will proxy to different APIs. and also be pretty secure and reliable for you to use it in production, right? So that's mostly it for my demo, I guess.